From Alabama's news source, this is WSFA News 12 Newsmakers with your host, Kim Wallace.
Wallace is the #1 segregationist in the country who comes back and changes his ways and apologizes and gets elected in 1982 largely by the massive vote of the African American community is a great story to tell. You don't need to add all this fictitious events.
That's David Azbell of the Wallace Foundation talking about the movie about former Governor George Wallace, a project that is suddenly drawing the wrath of the Wallace family, even current Governor Fob James. As far as his family is concerned, it's not hooray for Hollywood. It is all thumbs down and jeers for the production company filming the George Wallace story. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Kim Wallace. He's already been the focus of numerous books, so really it's no surprise that Hollywood is finally getting around to making a movie about the life of Alabama's most famous politician. At the outset, there was excitement, but the making of the movie has turned into a family feud, the Wallaces and those who know them squaring off against the movie makers. And before this miniseries hits the TV set in your home, the drama may be played out in a court of law. Here to help us sort out what all this fuss is about are David Azbell, spokesman for the Wallace Foundation, and George Wallace Jr. is going to give us the family's perspective on this controversy. And it's good to have you friends back with me again. Thank you for doing this. And this is going to be fun talking about it, although there are some serious issues involved. And when this first became news to Alabamians, it was really welcome. The press release from Turner Network Television, the dramatic true life story of one of the most intriguing characters in 20th century American politics, George Wallace, is coming to Turner Network Television. Gary Sinise will star as George Wallace. The director will be John Frankenheimer. This is a story of Shakespearean ambition and rivalry played out at a turning point in American society. It sounded good. Everybody was excited. What happened?
Well, what happened, Kim, was the third word you read, true life. We were all excited. George, Governor Wallace, everybody involved was excited that the governor's life merited a 4-hour miniseries that's billed as a true life story, and that's what we wanted them to tell. That's simply all we asked, is to tell the true life story. And then when I got a copy of the script, it read more like an episode of Days of Our Lives. It was a soap opera. The caricatures of characters, fictitious events that never happened. Obviously, they have an agenda in certain places, which I think are meant to demean Governor Wallace.
And at the beginning, you worked hand in hand to give them the information they needed to tell the story of George Wallace.
Well, the way that happened is John Frankenheimer, the director, who's directed some great movies, The Manchurian Candidate, The French Connection 2, Birdman of Alcatraz. He came down to Montgomery and met with Mike Boyer of the Alabama Film Commission, the director of the Film Commission, to scout locations. Well, Mike said, why don't I take you by the Wallace Museum? And I met him there and offered to take him to meet Governor Wallace, and we ended up spending a whole day with him. He spent about 30 minutes with the governor. We took him to the Archives and History to show him the clothes Governor Wallace was wearing when he was shot in order to help them with their costume design. We went to lunch, and during the course of lunch, he said, well, I'll tell you what, you seem so knowledgeable, I want to hire you as technical consultant, and I will send you a copy of the script. And that's the problem. They sent me a copy of the script.
Okay, when you opened it and read it, what did you find that really offended you?
Well, Kim, it has so many fictitious events. They have a scene where the governor tries to attempt suicide by rolling his wheelchair off of Big Jim Folsom's 5-foot-high front porch because he wants to speak to Big Jim and Big Jim won't come to the door. It's got a scene where a trustee at the mansion picks up an ice pick and holds it behind the governor and contemplates stabbing him. Basically, the script has everything except I'm surprised they didn't say Governor Wallace was standing on the grassy knoll in Dallas when JFK was shot. It almost goes that far. Okay,
so you read this. Do you call them right away? You call the producers or the director or the production company to say, wait a minute, what's happening with this story?
Well, John Frankenheimer, and this is a touchy point. Apparently, he didn't tell TNT he sent me the script. He did it on his own volition, and he had asked me to fax my critiques to his home, which I did. And a couple of days went by, and I heard nothing. So I said, well, he must not have gotten it. And so I faxed it to the production office. And that's when we ran into troubles. But I did get a phone call from John Frankenheimer on Christmas Eve where he said that he'd received my fax and he was reviewing it and he would deal with the troubles I had with the script as they arose. And I informed them, I said, John, that's not good enough. I've got to have some proof that these things will be changed or else I can no longer help you. And I didn't get the proof, so I'm not helping them anymore.
How soon did you clue the rest of the Wallace family in on what was in this script?
Well, right after I read it, they had a family meeting that I attended, and I said, look, I got a copy of the script, and I've got copies for all of you, and I just want to know, you might want to wait till after Christmas to read it, because it was right before Christmas when I gave it to them. And each one of them, and basically anyone I've shown the script to, has had the same reaction.
What was that reaction, George, the first time you started reading it?
Well, we were rather surprised. We had understood it would be, after Frankenheimer met with my father and what he related to David relative to his plans, that it would be a fair portrayal of my father in the South, of his career. As David mentioned, there are several events in the movie which did not occur, and it's really, in essence, an aberration of history. They portray my father in a way, they have him using extreme profanity all through the first part of it, which is not in his moral makeup. They have him portrayed as an ignorant, illiterate Southerner, a cornpone, if you will, hee-haw character, as Hollywood is so often fond of portraying Southerners. They portray Mother as a wallflower, in essence, following my father around with no real mind or substance of her own, which was not the case. She was a woman of dignity and integrity and grace and intelligence, and people know that. My feeling is this, that the story is dynamic enough, it's dramatic enough, it's controversial enough, it has all the Shakespearean elements, as you mentioned. It has redemption, reconciliation, forgiveness, coming together, has all these wonderful elements. So if you simply portray the people as they are and were, and the events as they occurred, you have a wonderful story. I think it's symptomatic, in my judgment, of what Hollywood likes to do to the South, the people of Alabama, and Southerners. And quite frankly, I think if our civilized society and culture will be saved, it'll be saved by the morality and the goodness and the integrity and the intelligence of the people of the South and the people of Alabama. But we're hopeful that, you know, they will find, as Lincoln said, that finest of word, a compromise, and come together and have a fair portrayal. We understand he's a public figure, and they can take artistic license with him as opposed to the average viewers watching this program. But they need to remedy some of these things, or we will have to take legal action.
Have either one of you talked directly to anyone important involved in this production to say, where did you come up with this stuff? What kind of research showed you that any of these events that you included in the script, the ones where, you know, how did they explain where these incidents came from?
Just as George just said, they said, well, we have to take dramatic license. We have to make some scenes more dramatic in order to hold the viewers. And I explained to him what George just said. With George Wallace's life, you don't need to make it any more dramatic. You need to tell the story as it happened, and you will have more people watch your movie than any other movie you've ever made. John Frankenheimer, he did not give me much confidence that any of our changes would be made. Yeah. And that's when we decided to retain the services of Beasley, Wilson, Main, and Crow.
All right. As we look for a compromise, we're going to take a break and talk about the heavyweight that might bring us a compromise in the production of this movie, so stay right there.
You know, believe it or not, I was shy as a student. I was afraid to raise my hand in class, always sat in the back row. Then in 4th grade, Mr. Marshall came along. He taught me not to be afraid, brought me out of my shell, made a real difference. Every day, teachers encourage kids to stand up, speak up, and not be afraid. And for this, we owe them our thanks. Oh, and Mr. Marshall, if you want to know what happened to Eric in the back row, I'm doing okay.
They're everywhere. admit it. It's partially our fault. Baptist Health, we deliver more babies.
Tomorrow morning at 6 on WSFA News 12's Today in Alabama.
Find out about an upcoming seminar that will show you women out there the 7 secrets of financial success. Plus, we'll look at one doctor who combines practical remedies with the power of prayer. Join us Monday.
Find out what happened in your world overnight. Get an early look at the news and the day's first weather forecast. Wake up with Today in Alabama. Tomorrow morning at 6 on WSFA, Alabama's news source.
Delight once again to the melodic sounds of the Troy State University Symphony Band as conductor Dr. Johnny Long returns to the Davis Theater for his final Montgomery concert on Thursday, January 23rd at 7:30 p.m. Admission is free, but seating is limited to the first 1,200, so be there early when the doors open at 7. For more information, call 334-670-3281.
We are back with George Wallace Jr. and David Azbell of the Wallace Foundation talking about the George Wallace story, a work of fiction, you say. Rick Harmon is going to be here from the Advertiser shortly, and he's going to talk about what Hollywood can do to historical figures. At what point did you decide that it was necessary to retain the services of a law firm to intervene?
It was shortly after I talked to John Frankenheimer, they contacted me and wanted some more research material.
This was even after you had told them something's got to give here.
Right. And the thing was, John Frankenheimer was planning another location trip here to Montgomery shortly before the new year. I said, let me wait and talk to John when he comes down to do the location shoot, and let's work this out. Well, the trip was canceled. And shortly after the trip was canceled, I made some phone calls out there, and my calls were not returned anymore. So obviously they had used me for what they could and then didn't need to talk to me anymore. And it was at that point when they closed the door of communication. Mm-hmm. We wanted to talk, and they had no interest in it.
Is this a family decision to do this, George?
Yes, we believe as a family that this is might be our best option, last option, if you will, to try to get their attention. I do think it's important that the public know that so much of the movie is untrue. Events have been created. And again, how they portrayed my mother and father and others. It's interesting because my father surrounded himself with some of the finest, most intelligent people. General Taylor Hardin, Judge John Harris, Henry Stegall, people of that caliber. But yes, this is probably our best option, and hopefully they will see this and come to us and try to rectify this. And Kim, I must say this: I can't help but believe that a large part of this is because he led the conservative movement in this country 30 years ago. Newt Gingrich told me in his office a year ago that the contract with America, in essence, is what your father ran for president on. USA Today, months ago, large headlines, Wallace, godfather of the conservative movement. And the liberals have never liked him. I mean, he's been their arch enemy, and you're known by your enemies, and we're glad of that. But in essence, he's won because the public policy agenda today, what is on the front burner, is what he was advocating. And I think it's a way for the liberals, those who spew forth all the gratuitous violence and sex on television, have butchered the First Amendment, to take a Southern governor who led a national movement of magnitude and make him out to be, again, an ignorant, illiterate Southerner. And I think that's part of it, and that's just my instinctive feeling. I don't have anything empirical, but my instincts, frankly, are pretty good.
Okay, we know that the filming has already begun out there. So what is the legal strategy, knowing that the filming is underway? Will you be able to get an injunction to stop the filming, or to stop the distribution, or to stop the airing? What are you aiming at?
David has been on top of that more than have I, because he's there day to day. I know we had sought, I think, an injunction to stop them from beginning to film, as I understood it, David.
Well, The decision to take them to court and the start of production, which was January 13th, did not give Beasley, Wilson, Manning, Crowe enough time to research the law in California and get co-counsel. So we did miss that deadline. And they have given us a number of avenues of action we can take. Among them are seek an injunction at this point after they've spent some money and begun filming and make them stop. Let them film the movie, see if the objectionable scenes are still in the movie. If they are, we seek an injunction to prevent it from being aired, or if we can't do that, wait for the movie to be shown and then you hit them where it hurts, which is their pocketbook. So we've got a number of strategies we can follow, and each one of them will follow up on the other.
All right, now here is what Turner Television released as a statement on the 10th of January about this controversy, and I'm going to read it to you very quickly. It is unfortunate that conclusions were drawn about a movie that had yet commenced production and whose script had not yet finalized. For many months, the script has been undergoing substantial editing, and in a number of cases, the Wallace Foundation's comments elicited from a reading of an early version of the script have been taken into account and given due consideration where appropriate. We are confident that the movie, when presented in its final form, will fairly portray the historical record through the medium of docudrama. Are you comforted by that, either one of you?
I'm not comforted by anything Turner says at this point. The conclusion I have drawn from the first script I've seen are that it's outrageously untrue. I mean, how they portrayed my mother and father and others and events they've constructed. I mean, if they're talking about rewrites, they'll have to rewrite the entire script to begin to be accurate. So, I mean, that, you know, it doesn't take an intellectual giant to understand that. But
and very quickly, the national media is now starting to catch on to this story. Is that right?
All right. We just got confirmation today from Reuters, who got the first interview with John Frankenheimer, that they are not coming to film in Alabama. It's the first definite word we've gotten. But also I wanted to say about the statement, Kim, is that if they are so confident we will be happy with the new script, number one, why haven't we seen the new script?
Send it to us.
And number two, Kim, if someone had written about you, Kim Wallace tried to commit suicide, and one of his trusted friends tried to stab him with an ice pick, or if somebody wrote that about any of your viewers, and then said, oh, well, I edited that out, but you can't see the new version. Would you take their word for it?
what we ought to do is have a movie taking Ted Turner and Jane Fonda and create a lot of events in their lives that never occurred and see how they like it. By the way, Kim, Paul Harvey will be doing a piece on this in the near future.
All right. Thank you, George, for doing this with us. Hi to the rest of the family. Coming up next, movie critic Rick Harmon's take on all of this.
If you ask the right questions, you'll find Southern Homes and Gardens is the right answer.
Green and blooming plants can offer a lot of enjoyment, but during the winter months, we have to be careful that we're giving them the right care. Today, we're going to be talking about light, water, and temperature requirements. If a plant begins leaning toward the light source, turn the plant frequently to maintain a good all-round shape. And if a plant begins to stretch or produce larger but weak leaves or light-colored leaves, it's telling you it doesn't have enough light. Plants prefer temperatures of 65 to 75 degrees. They should be kept away from all drafts, either of hot or cold air. In the winter, overwatering is a bigger problem than underwatering. If soil feels damp to the touch, wait another day or two. Never let plants stand in water. Green and blooming plants can add a great deal to almost any decor. We hope the tips we've shared with you today add a great deal to your enjoyment of them.
Your home and garden experts are at Southern Homes and Gardens on the Wetumpka Highway.
It's the best of Crook and Chase. How did this man get inside a balloon? And can Lori Ann do it too?
It made a nasty noise.
Open it like this and put the head. Yes, go.
The fashion guy breaks out the accessories plus Lurlene's in the kitchen.
Would you care for cocktail wings?
And find out how this balancing act can heat up things in the bedroom.
We got her. Yes, we do. Got
it. Next, Crook and Chase.
Weekdays at 9 on WSFA.
When a child is missing, this is the number you need. At the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they know what to do when you call. They're in immediate contact with police departments everywhere, and they keep the Missing Children's Network bulletin board in every Walmart store constantly updated. So keep this number where you can find it, 1-800-THE-LOST, and join us in supporting the Missing Children's Network, because we all have to care about bringing them.
Welcome back, everybody. Joining us now is my favorite movie critic, Rick Harmon, who writes for the Montgomery Advertiser and who for years has been dealing with Hollywood types, from the stars to the production crews and the audiences. Rick, it's good to have you on again. It's nice to see you, and I do love your work. You're a good writer. Is this unusual for Hollywood to take a story so well known and just chop it up where you don't recognize it anymore?
No. In fact, I think listening to the comments, the only disagreement I'd really have is that this has something to do with this being the South or George Wallace being conservative. If you look at Hollywood movies and the history of Hollywood, you know, you do have the problem where it doesn't matter how good your story is. You could climb Mount Everest naked, and when they wrote the story, they'd give you a terminal disease. It's just where they're never satisfied with the story. And I remember they had a thing, it was on Peter the Great, and it had Peter the Great meeting Napoleon, and they were never alive during the same period, and they actually put a note at the beginning of Peter the Great saying, many of the facts in this drama never really happened.
So they aren't facts.
Most of them actually need that.
Well, do you see the Wallace family point of view here?
I certainly do. I'm afraid what should be interesting is to see what happens, whether they can stop the movie or whether they've merely kept it out of Alabama. But certainly, if I were having a story done on me or anyone, I think you'd have to be incredibly leery, where you just don't know what they'll say. You know, it's a matter of trust, and I'm not sure they've shown they're that trustworthy in the past.
And if you think about the impact this kind of movie can have, if there are so many erroneous elements and it is shown to a national, probably a world audience through Turner's conglomerate, it can change perception of what really happened and what George Wallace was really like.
Oh, there's a lot of truth to that, where, you know, who is actually going to read the biography? And so many of these are just completely wrong, but most of the people who see it will never know. And there is also a problem where they just love cliches, where you do have the Southern cliche that they like. There was a movie, Reversal of Fortune, which won an Oscar. And in that, they had a case where in the movie it involved two black convicts who, during their father's escape, a guard had been killed and they were, you know, on death's row. In actuality, there was a case like this that Dershowitz had handled, but it wasn't even near the South and the people weren't black, but they just figured, well, this will make it more compelling.
But if you're working with something that's relatively obscure, it's a story, as opposed to working with George Wallace, whom everyone of this generation, 2 or 3 generations, are very familiar with, how do you think it'll be received by audiences if they were to air the version that's in the script here?
I don't think it would matter, really. I think that's the problem with what's being done now, is that I think most of the people in Alabama, they know the history, and they'll be upset. But for someone watching it, you know, in Idaho, I'm not sure they'll say it and go, well, that never happened. I think there's a chance they see it and they go, well, you know, I didn't know about that.
And
that's interesting.
And that's the sad part about it. We'll be back with these two gentlemen in just a minute. Stay with us.
Named 6 courses on Alabama's Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail in its listing of the country's best, most affordable golf courses. And Alabama ranks 2nd in the nation in the number of great affordable courses, all of them on the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail. The trail has already been named one of the top 10 trips in the world by Frequent Flyer magazine, and the Wall Street Journal called the trail one of the hot tourist spots in the Southeast. 18 championship courses on 7 sites throughout the state make the trail a unique and memorable trip for any golfer. 100 miles of championship golf, 324 holes of spectacular golfing pleasure. Playing the trail is as challenging and as beautiful as golf can get. This is indeed a golfer's dream come true. Isn't it time you discovered firsthand how great golf can be on the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail? Call 800-949-4444 to make your tee time today. Alabama's Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail. World-class golf, not a world away.
It's the best of Crook and Chase. How did this man get inside a balloon? And can Lori Ann do it too?
Oh, it made a nasty noise.
Open it like this and put the head. Yes, go, go, go.
The fashion guy breaks out the accessories plus Lurlene's in the kitchen.
Would you care for cocktail wings?
And find out how this balancing act can heat up things in the bedroom.
We got her.
Yes, we do.
Got it. Next, Crook and Chase.
Weekdays at 9 on WSFA.
You know, news doesn't stop Friday at midnight.
To get the most from your weekend, you need an up-to-the-minute weather forecast.
And besides, when are the big games played anyway?
Your world doesn't stop turning on Saturday and Sunday. That's why WSFA News 12 works hard on the weekends to bring you news, weather, and sports. At 6 on Saturday and at 10 Saturday and Sunday. Complete weekend news coverage from a dedicated news team. One more reason why WSFA is Alabama's news.
We're back with Rick Harmon and David Azbell. Anything, David, looking back over the last few months, any mistakes you might have made or any lessons you have learned?
Well, I'm glad that we worked with them in the first place and that they could have done this without any hesitation. We couldn't put up any roadblocks, which we're trying to do. We have kept them out of Alabama. You know, we've kept the Yankees at the border. Now it's time to rally around the flag and finish the battle. But I do just want to say one thing, Kim, and that's I've noticed a big difference between Hollywood and Alabama in dealing with those people. And the case in point is there's a movie out now, The People versus Larry Flynt, where Hollywood has looked at Larry Flynt, the publisher of Hustler magazine, and said, he's a great American hero, a staunch defender of the First Amendment. Well, here in Alabama, we look at Larry Flynt and we say Larry Flynt's a smut peddler and a pornographer, which is all he really is. But Hollywood will not give George Wallace his credit, but yet they give Larry Flynt what they perceive as his credit.
And Rick, do you, in knowing Hollywood like you do you see a political agenda in movies like this?
I think this is almost the luck of the draw. I think the way it is now, there's almost an edge to giving someone unpopular, making them look different. There could be a conservative bias, but I'm not really sure there is. I know, again, with Larry Flynt, you've had people on both sides complain about the film. As far as some of the people who liked him say it's not nice enough, and some of the scenes never occurred. Some of his opponents say it's not nearly damaging enough.
And the irony here is, with a great cast being assembled, this could be a fairly well-done movie.
Oh, the Wallace movie, it could.
Incidentally, as we say goodbye, David just reminded me that today, as you're watching it, this is the 10th anniversary of Governor Wallace's retirement from politics. Thank you both for being here. It's been great fun, and keep us posted, and we'll keep you posted. Thanks for watching.